into business policy and practice. I can see a lot of familiar faces in the room. Good afternoon, everyone, and nice to see you all here. I think we have actually a minute to give the others on the main room to join us. So if we can just do that, and I'll just greet our lovely speakers for this afternoon. And yes, we have, of course, Erin here, Hafiz from IISD, we'll be speaking about earlier, later today. If we have Song Saran as well in the room, may I confirm if Saran is here? All right, Sanjiv from Sail Ventures, and Miss Gisela from Jollibee Group Foundation. Right. Thanks, everyone. Let me just see if we have a Song Saran actually in the room so we can get started. Great. We do. Awesome. All right, let's go to the next slide, please, and do some very quick housekeeping. I think our community of practice knows this already, but please rename yourself as name and organization so we can address you properly during this session. Our colleagues, we have Outbound Asia Breakout Room 2, putting in an example in the chat for everyone. Please keep yourself on mute. Use the raise hand function to raise your virtual hands when you want to speak. And if you have any technical issues, please send a private message to OAI Breakout Room 2 in the chat box, or anyone from the Grow Asia Network who you're already familiar with. Lastly, we are recording this session with the purpose of sharing it eventually, the highlights and discussions that we are learning today with you and also other stakeholders that are not able to join us this afternoon. Right, to get us all started, we want to understand what each of you thinks when you hear responsible investment. Right, so let's set the stage on what we know about responsible investment. And you can see on your screen, so for our polls this afternoon, we will be using Menti. And you can see on your screen a QR to join Menti. Kindly join us. I'll give everyone a minute or two to join. Once you're in, hit the heart button just on the lower end of your screen. So we know who are in the room right now. All right. I see 8 people in the room. Don't worry, if you are not able to access Menti, you can always type in the chat box your answers for some of our poll this afternoon. Right? I'll give a minute or two for everyone to join. And again, just a bit of housekeeping. If we can all please be on mute for now, and we can address you during the Q&A of our session. All right. I see a lot more people joining in on Menti. Great. Okay, more people. Lots of hearts. Thank you. Right, if we can go to the next slide, please. Great. Now this time you can input up to 3 words on what responsible investment is for you. I see everyone else has already included their answers. A lot of familiar words. Inclusive for responsible investment. We have, I think, sustainable as well. Climate positive. That is actually very up to date, I should say. Accountability, impactful. We have social inclusion, which is very important. And we have some answers in the chat as well. See, ESG compliant, yes. And more people are agreeing with sustainable for what is responsible investment, as well as inclusive and ethical. Again, for those who are unable to join this Menti Clouds, where you can see all of your reflections on what responsible investment is, you can always give us a chat on the chat box on what you think responsible investment is. All right. I'll just give a minute or two for everyone, more likely 10 seconds, so we can give the floor to our speakers this afternoon and go to Q&A. Right, great. Thank you for taking that short poll on Menti. I can see many of us think sustainable and inclusive and ethical as well when we think about responsible investment. Bea, please screenshot the results of our Menti poll. Thank you. All right, what a great way to start the session. I think we'll hear a lot of these keywords during our session this afternoon. So I look forward to it. All right. And now going to the next slide, please. Right, so objectives of our session. I would like to share objectives of our session with you this afternoon. So we are here to, of course, key tools available for both agribusiness and financial investors. We also have invited our regional corporate partners to reflect on valuable and relevance of the ASEAN RAI programs to their work, their business, and their investments. Right? And together we will cover 3 main areas of work or our featured tools, including the case studies on agribusiness and financial institutions. We also have our scoring tool and, of course, the learning program. We will hear about it more today. Next slide, please. And now a quick look on what we've done so far to help promote our partners' responsible investment practices in national, regional, and international forums. So some of these private sector partners are here in the room this afternoon. Also, these showcases would not be possible without the collaboration of our civil society organization colleagues to share their experiences, to let us share our experience in their events. In convening and co-convening those activities, we saw the opportunity to build a community for our partners, which we call our RAI Community of Practice. We initiated our first roundtable last year, which resulted in exclusive sessions with selected experts in the region, such as the Carbon in Agriculture and Forestry event, as well as in-country investor sessions in Vietnam, led by our Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture in Vietnam, or PSAV, and in the Philippines, led by Philippine Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture, or PPSA. And we plan to formalize this community by the end of the year. So we will give everyone in the room updates on this progress of our community. Right. Next slide, please. And as this is also presented by Erin earlier in our plenary session, so let's just go through it very quickly. And in total, Grow Asia interviewed 15 agribusinesses partners and 5 financial investors across ASEAN in 2022. These case studies are from Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos PDR, the Philippines, and Vietnam in the following commodities and topics, and from different business types. And we have published 2 batches of agribusiness case study last year and this year, along with summary videos for each. And here are the QR code once again for those who might missed it on the plenary. And updates for new publication will be on these pages. So bookmark it or subscribe so you can get the updates right away. If you have any questions at this point, please type it in the chat box so we can compile them for our question and answer for open forum later on. Right, and now I'm very pleased to welcome our first speaker, Songsaran, CEO of Amir Rice, to share his experience on participating in the case study. Amir Rice is part of the Agribusiness case study series on the theme Sustainability Standards and Certification. Mr. Song Saran, Chairman and CEO of Amir Rice, go back to the previous slide, please. Thank you. CEO of Amir Rice Cambodia has grown rice export over 450,000 tons from 2011 to 2020. He made a niche for the Cambodian rice market and key success of inclusive business model, working with over 100 cooperatives with over 10,000 farmer families. He graduated BBA and MBA at the National University of Management. He was awarded the McKinsey Golden Medal Best Entrepreneur in 2006, the Takeda Young Entrepreneurship Award in 2015, and the winner of the Country Award in 2018, ASEAN Grow Award, Young Entrepreneurs Award, and Excellence SME Innovation Award. Lots of awards. Please welcome Bong Saran. Over to you.
Thank you, Christos. Thank you, and good afternoon to all friends in community, ASEAN, and other friends. I'd like to express our sincere for the organizers. Gratitude, thank for all the team to invite Amir Rice, also select us as a case study. So on behalf of Amir Rice, we have been achieving remarkable result to work as a partnership with the smallholder farmers. We bring prosperity and share benefit to those equally, ensure transparency, business operation with the farmers. So what we've been learning and doing with the ASEAN Rice, we've been show the benefit directly to the smallholder farmers, because we treat them as a partner. We want our partner know that this case study represent our heart. We've been doing from heart. We work to achieve together with we call a share equal benefit, social protection, environmental protection, contribute to the earth. That not just only Amir Rice, but mostly it from our people, our farmers. That really important that we've been a part of it. I'm sure it's gonna be change the mindset of the smallholder farmer, improve the way of the communication, attitude, behavior to work with the private company. So we have feel more warmed. We have been closely, together share our weakness. We continue to improve what we are, facing challenge. We need to improve ourselves as a private company, and what part that farmers and smaller farmer need to change to. So this way we have been recorded in the not only the good things of Amir Rice, but also something weakness we need to improve also. We opened with this report to the farmers, also our investors, developing partner, buyer, customers, to see what we are doing is it's not only for a shareholder or only the profit oriented, but partly go to CSRs, go to the environment, and also responsible to the consumer, that bring farm to the table. That's one of our main thing. So I would like to express also that Amir Rice model, we inclusive, not only responsible, but inclusive. Mostly 60% are women. So the women have been decision making, meeting, design project, and work together for a project, like say teams. So we are building a team at the community just to make them from the poverty. We want them to increase their income by creating job, community, inclusively. And we had this no discrimination. We have a lot of minority groups in the Amir Rice, from the mountain area, highland area, mountainous. They speak their language. We try to work with every cultures we adapted to. So this really proves our values, our commitment. That from the case study find it really motivate, inspire RAI that we are doing the right things. So I would like to thank you so much for the Grow Asia, and also all the sponsors, the donors, funding agency, and partner that joined in the ASEAN RAI and also work with RAI. So thank you so much. I would like anything to question, I'd like to get answer later. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bong Saran Orkun. Bong, what great insights. And as Bong Saran mentioned in his reflections on being a case study participant, where we aligned the 10 principles of the ASEAN RAI reported in the plenary earlier. And great to hear the words inclusion and how gender and also other members of the community are involved in the responsible investments of RAI. Thank you, Bong Saran, once again. And if you have any questions at this point, I would like to reiterate, please type in the chat box so we can compile them for the question and answer later on today. And now over to our colleague Hafiz Mirza of IISD to give us a background on the scoring tool. Over to you, Hafiz.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Borj. Good afternoon, colleagues. Now, as you will see, this slide is one that Erin has already shared with you in the plenary session. So I don't really want to spend too much time going through it. Though, of course, she went from it from left to right. I could do it from right to left. But seriously, I think the main thing is, given the pressing time situation, let me just underline three things. The first is, as Erin said, this is a tool built on existing tools. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to work with the existing standards, tools, principles, indicators that you currently use. So again, as she mentioned, we have cross-referenced this tool with existing standards and principles, and in particular indicators such as the Gini Plus, the Irish Plus, and the IFC standards. So it's not new, and the idea is for it to work hand in glove with what agribusiness already do. The second point that I want to stress is that currently we are actually using the tool already in other parts of the world. The ASEAN RAI version is, of course, specifically aligned to the ASEAN guidelines within this region, but we have other versions which are more general and which are aligned directly to the CFS RAI, which are more global and which were obviously put together under the CFS RAI, CFS under FAO. We're testing this in Africa. We're currently using this, and probably soon in Latin America. We're currently using this as a diagnostic tool to assess the degree to which agribusinesses are aligned with the RAI. And then, of course, from that, we can then discuss how they can actually improve or as Aaron said, seize opportunities. So that's fine. But I think in the longer run, the more agribusinesses and indeed financial investors will get involved with the tool, the more we can actually use this as a benchmarking tool to see the extent to which companies are aligned with the CFS RAI, with the ASEAN RAI. So benchmarking will be a key aspect of how this will develop in the future. The final point to make is, as again, to stress, we're already testing the tool. We are planning to increase and intensify our piloting of the tool with companies, with both financial investors and agribusinesses within this region over the next few months. And so we're very keen to engage colleagues in the room to be involved in this process. So basically, the RAI Scoring Tool, the ASEAN RAI Scoring Tool is coming to a company near you. So be a part of the process. So that's my pitch, and over to you, Borj.
Right, thanks very much, Hafiz. And now, next slide, please. Right, and right now we will hear some insights from our corporate partner in the region. We'll have Sanjiv to offer his insights on the scoring tool. Sanjiv spent over 16 years in investment banking, advising public and private sector companies in Southeast Asia on corporate finance matters. He brings a wealth of structured credit, liability management, capital markets, M&A experience from a career in investment banking with UBS and Credit Suisse to the sustainable finance sector. Sanjiv leads all investment activities in Southeast Asia for SAIL, which is the investment manager of And Green. Sanjeev hails from Sri Lanka, but spent his formative years in Toronto, Washington, D.C., and Jakarta before settling in Singapore in 2000. Sanjeev also holds a Bachelor of Science, Finance and Chemistry from Rutgers University in the United States. Pleased to welcome Sanjeev Lewis.
Thank you, Borj, and great to be here, everybody. For those of you who don't know much about And Green and SAIL, I'll just quickly mention that what I'm going to comment on today is coming from the lens of an investor. So the And Green Fund was established and began investing, established around 2017, began investing in 2018, purely to what we hope will be transformative, to use one of the words that was in the poll earlier, to agricultural and forestry commodity supply chains. And by transformative, what we like to do is to invest and earn a financial return that Aaron alluded to earlier, but also to drive, and I'll use more words, climate positive investment in agriculture and forestry. It's really about transforming some of these business models that have been around for obviously centuries and that are globally relevant to more sustainable models that also are inclusive for smallholders and communities, but also deforestation free for us, and therefore will drive climate positive changes for us. So that's a little bit about what the fund does and how I'm framing my comments. One of the things we find, and it can be frustrating for us as an investor, is despite years now of sort of surging interest and understanding of what it means to be sustainable, what it means to have this climate emergency facing us, and what we can do to stop it or to arrest it, there's still this sort of reticence that we encounter and a little bit of hesitancy, I would say, to act. So the action is lagging, as I'm sure a lot of you encounter as well. And one of the things we see, that's used as an excuse, I would say, is that there's so many standards, so many varying KPIs and tools. Companies and banks and financial investors are reluctant to change now. They'll rather wait for clarity, wait for certainty before they take action. So we run into that type of frustration quite a bit with our clients. The other one we face is just the fact that there's a lack of involvement of banks and financial institutions in the agribusiness sector in particular, at least from a sustainable financing perspective. So with that in mind, I wanted to comment and say that the tool that's being talked about here and the standards being not new and aggregated is very interesting, because for us, we're a small investor. We do very few deals. We're very focused on what we do. We can go into deep engagement, spend a lot of time with each of our clients to gain that trust, gain that understanding, and then make those investments. But when you talk about investors, traditional investors, institutional investors, banks, certainly as the largest provider of capital to these sectors, they don't have the luxury of that time. They need to act quickly. They have multiple products, and they have thousands and thousands of clients. They cannot spend that type of time that we do. So they need tools to enable them to sort of make this transition much more seamless, and to really integrate it with their existing business systems and their loan generating tools or loan generating business divisions as quickly as possible. So the more that we can sort of coalesce around standards that are adopted widely, accepted widely, for example, obviously by the ASEAN member nations, I think that will really drive hopefully a big step change in how quickly change from the financial sector can happen and drive the environmental and social change that we want to see through investment. So I'll stop there, and maybe I'll pass it back to you, Borj. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjiv. And again, thanks for using our word cloud earlier. I could see a lot of alignment from there and the insights from already 2 of our partners in the region. And I'd like to also inform everyone that for the scoring tool in particular, so we are currently, if you want to pilot this tool and see how it will reflect into your responsible investments in your businesses or in your investments, we are open to do a one-on-one call to learn more. We'll post our contact details a little later, and we will start some of the pilots for this scoring tool July onwards. So get in touch with us if you have interest in learning more about the scoring tool and how it applies to agribusiness, especially, and our financial sector. Right. And again, if there are any questions at this point, please type in the chat box. I see some already interesting questions for some of our panelists. We'll collect that and we'll do our Q&A later on. Right, now over to Aaron Sweeney of Grow Asia, to give us a background on another pillar of work for our private sector. Actually, this is for all stakeholders for the RAI Academy. Go, Aaron.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Borj. As Hafiz pointed out, you've seen the slides, but I'm going to share a bit more detail than we had time to share in the main plenary session. So in fact, this program has been an idea for Grow Asia and our partners since January of 2020. And we're very grateful for support from both the Swiss and the Japanese governments that are helping to bring this program to life. Many of you in the room, I recognize and see you, have participated in either a national workshop in Cambodia or Vietnam or the Philippines, or a regional workshop that we held last year to give us feedback on what content do you really want to know about responsible investing. There are so many topics that we could possibly cover in a training program. And so we spent almost 1 year collecting this feedback from you in groups and individually, so that we could design a learning program that actually meets your needs. The other thing that I'm very excited about, and you see it here in the solution statement, is that the training program is not only intended to add more information to your already very busy lives and brains, but also to help build up a sense of leadership and community among our partners who want to make sure that your practices are reaching that next level of sustainability. We're also very hopeful that the participants who go through our training program will be able to both continue to stay in touch and help each other, but also be able to guide other organizations as they're trying to understand what to do, for example, during a land dispute that they're looking at in an investment process, or what to do to make sure that women are included throughout the process of making that investment, to make sure that there's no issues related to gender equality. And so that's why we're making this program a bit longer. Next slide, please. It's not a one-day workshop, it's not a few hours online, but it's actually a 3 to 4 month program where you'll be participating in both online and in-person learning. And you'll be able to come out with all of these benefits you see here on the right-hand side of the screen. So the purpose is very much to provide information, but also to create a sense of community, to create a group of people who feel empowered really to use that information when you get back to your desks, when you get back to the field, and start to implement what you've learned at your job. So we're very excited to be launching this program in just a few months, and we hope that many of you, and I know some of you I can see on the line, have already put your hands up and said, please make sure that I get to be part of this pilot program launching in September with 50 people, and we'll have the opportunity for you to actually indicate that during the last session here today after the breakout sessions. So do stay tuned. Next slide. Brilliant. And I'll pass back to Borj to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Aaron. I was about to prompt you, but as usual, on time. Thanks for more information on the RAI Academy. And again, if anyone has any more questions, please put in the chat and we'll gladly answer them during the Q&A or directly. And now to share her insights on how training can benefit companies, or why is training an important part of responsible practice, I would want to welcome Ms. Gisela Chongson, Executive Director of the Jollibee Group Foundation. Ms. Gisela currently serves as the ED of Jollibee Group Foundation, corporate social responsibility arm of the Jollibee Foods Corporation. Prior to JGF, she worked as Regional Director for Southeast Asia of the Synergos Institute and the Director for Corporate Citizenship at the Philippine Business for Social Progress. She has served as a consultant at the Asian Institute of Management and the University of Cambridge Program for Industry. Her work experience has spanned foundation management, corporate social responsibility, bridging leadership, and social innovation. Ms. Gisela is presently the chair of the board of the Association of Foundations in the Philippines, and she obtained her baccalaureate degree in mathematics from Ateneo de Manila University and a master's degree in international policy from the George Washington University. She also did postgraduate studies in cross-sectoral partnership at the University of Cambridge Program for Industry and on corporate philanthropy on the Center for the Study of Philanthropy in New York. Gisela is also a PhD candidate for leadership at the Ateneo de Manila University School of Governance. A lot of information. And getting to know our next speaker, Ms. Gisela, over to you.
Thank you, Borge. Too much information. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Jollibee Group Foundation started its work in inclusive value chains in agriculture 14 years ago through the Farmer Entrepreneurship Program. And at that time, we had very few models to learn from and had to rely on limited experience and scarce literature to make sense of things. Together with our partners, we had to learn along the way and draw insights from our experience. Today, the Jollibee Group, one of the largest and leading restaurant companies in the world, has 17 accredited farmer groups joining the roster of the company's multinational and local suppliers. These farmer groups have a combined total of more than $7 million worth of transactions with the company over the years. And they account for 15% of our requirements for fresh vegetables. That 15% was actually higher pre-pandemic and has room to grow bigger, but we are confronted with the reality that small producers are typically unprepared to be suppliers of global companies. And that is why, other than facilitating farmers' access to Jollibee Group as a market, our foundation had to embark on a training program of our own together with partners. And the first key aspect of the training program is that while we mentored the farmer leaders who are already supplying Jollibee Group, we also train the institutions that comprise the support system of the farmers, namely the national government, local government units, financing institutions, cooperatives, and even other buyers. This way, we can have a network of organizations providing various interventions for farmers. Moreover, they can also train more farmer groups to access different markets. This enablers is the focus of our training program called the Agro-Entrepreneurship for Inclusive Value Chains course. It is anchored on our belief that unless the ecosystem surrounding the smallholder farmers work to their advantage, then there is only so much that they can do by themselves, given the enormous challenges they face. For example, unless financing institutions give farmers access to capital, they will not be able to produce the yield needed to meet the requirements of the market. And in the same manner, local government play the bridging role for farmers to have access to modern production and good agricultural practices. Second, we utilize a blended learning approach. Aside from doing asynchronous work and discussing case studies in class, participants apply in the field the learnings that they acquire from each module. At the end of the series of modules, they put together an agro-enterprise action plan, which we then monitor over the next 6 months. And the end output is a cluster of farmers who are trained and ready to do collective test marketing with Jollibee Group or with other buyers. Third, we are mindful to combine technical and practical know-how with leadership development. We are aware that some problems confronting farmers are technical in nature, like production costing and supply planning. However, most problems have elements of adaptive challenges in it, such as changing farmers' practice from individual to collective marketing. We are also mindful that the success of any intervention ultimately depends on the personal commitment and drive and motivation of the enablers. The fourth element of our training is we encourage our partners to enroll as a working group. We ask them to form a partnership with other organizations coming from their area and with the shared goal of transforming small producers into farmer entrepreneurs. We believe that working together does not happen naturally and needs skills building and change in mindset. And the training program provides them not only an opportunity to learn together, but also to practice collaborative behavior early on. So my final point is we're excited to take part in Grow Asia's learning and accreditation program as they fit nicely with our own training principles, blended approach, technical and leadership combined, and multi-sectoral in composition of participants. The practice of responsible investing and inclusive business has profoundly grown in the last 14 years, and we look forward to learning from fellow practitioners as well as field researchers what else we can do to grow the field in breadth and depth. Thank you.
Thank you for that great insights, Ms. Gisela. Very much appreciate the work of the Jollibee Group Foundation in the Philippines and working together with our smallholder farmers, especially I think on the farmer entrepreneurship program, where the farmers are actually being helped and develop skills to become entrepreneurs themselves. What an interesting model. And as the same way as our other participants in the room, we are here, of course, to learn from each other best practices that we can apply in our investments and businesses in the region and in country. Thanks again, Ms. Gisela. And now I'll just like to turn over that we have heard from our partners in the region. I would like to open our floor for question and answer. Right, I see some questions already in the chat earlier and some questions from the group this afternoon. You can raise your virtual hand to get acknowledged. If you have any questions for a certain speaker or anyone from the Grow Asia or IISD team, just state your name and organization as well as to whom do you want to address the question to. And I encourage you to put your questions in the chat for those who some of you that might not able to use their microphones at this point. And I see all of our speakers have opened their cameras for you to see them as well. And remember their speech from earlier, or insights rather, from the tools and activities that our team has been doing in the region. All right. While I am waiting for anyone to raise their virtual hand or put in questions on the chat, I would go first with a question to Bong Saran from Emerald Rice. It's a question related to changing the mindset of smallholder farmers. And how did you manage to change the mindset of smallholder farmers? I guess mindset in terms of conducting best practices, especially on your case study. We've learned how you converted some of the traditional way of farming to organic farming, for example. Over to you, Bong.
Thank you, Chris. Question from the panel. Yeah, very good question. Actually, it's very tough in change mindset, because when you are farmers, not just feel like in the business, so they feel different in the way of doing. So when I observe important thing, farmer, they say I'm just a farmer, I cannot have any influence to change. So they may be not able to change as that business we needed. So the first we have been doing, in my experience, is process. We need time. So time we need to educate, train mentors we did not expect them to change 100% to what we are oriented, like you say, from conventional rice to organic rice, for example, one case. But we have many cases in the way we are work to convince them. We talk about growth, benefit, and share. That's what we have been openly to tell the farmers. You have to grow. The way you grow, you produce food. You cannot eat all the food. You have to produce food for market, for produce consumption in another countries. So then you cannot do the way you're doing now, because you're doing now, it's not path standard. Because when you talk about the business, you talk about the international standard, the quality specification. So you start to learn. It's a process of learning and adapt to the new things that farmer need to adapt this technology, know-how, training. So I would say from the conventional to organic, we spent more than 5 years to transform and change the mindset of people. And now we are reaching the ultimate goal to ensure they understand what is shared prosperity, what is the growth, also the inclusive social protection for their children. So, for example, in my farmers, before we are joining, they earn less than $1,000 per year, and now I think they earn not less than $3,000 per year if they have 2 hectares of land. So this, because they are growing, they've been changed 180 degrees, because now they are not only farmers, they have become agripreneurs. So this is very important that farmer, earn benefit, growth, and share. And they start to share because they take some money to help other women, other poor people in the village. They support children, everything, funds. That's an impact that more than, things. And the last one, they did not need to migrate. They stay in the community. So when they are farmer, they are aware, I need to migrate to work on outside to do this. I don't have time to do the farm. Now when they change, they produce for export. So they have no time to work in another countries. They just stay in the community, produce products they will need, and every month they are busy to produce. That's why they earn a few $1,000s a year. So that's enough to work in the community and don't need to go. That's impact for them to change. And then people learn by people. One change, another people continue to change. So we come up with is a role model. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, or kun again, Bong Saran, for those for that answering that question very well. I think intertwined with what as well our other corporate partners like JGF is doing in the region on agri-entrepreneurship and farmer entrepreneurship. All right. I actually have a question in mind if our participants don't mind. That actually this one is for Jollibee Group Foundation, Miss Gisela. I just wanted to ask, actually, yes, thank you. I wanted to ask a question in terms of, as we move to the now normal, what do you think those practicing responsible investing need to brace themselves for?
Okay, thanks, Borgie. And I really am reading a lot of the questions on the chat, and thank you for that. Maybe just to respond in general first, it has been cited that we've actually moved past the VUCA world of volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous to a BANI world, or BANI. What used to be volatile has ceased to be reliable. It's now brittle. People are not uncertain. They're in fact anxious. Things are not complex. They're in fact non-linear. And what used to be ambiguous appears incomprehensible to us today. So brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. And that's why I wish it would be very easy to answer all the questions that are being posted, because a lot of the issues, animal welfare, deforestation, sustainability, it's something that we will have to do and work with other stakeholders in the process, in our chain, for example. How do we are partnering? In fact, we're very selective in our partners among the chicken manufacturers, because we really want to uphold the standards, and that's why we are entering into joint venture arrangements with global suppliers who are also confirmed and committed to these standards, and that for us will not only enable us to comply with the standards, but also allow us now to share the same best practices with the other suppliers that we have in the country. So I just wish that things can be done and answered easily. But for example, this whole aspect of work that we've done is primarily social, and it took us several years to get that done, to get it done right, and to get it in a way that it's now sustainable. We do have to address other issues as well, and we really are excited that while a lot of issues remain threatening to some extent, but also incomprehensible, we know that we cannot allow ourselves to remain apathetic or resigned, but we will need to trust our intuition, be data informed, and to make decisions and actions. So I hope that through ASEAN RAI and to the Grow Asia Partnership, we can continue to join hands with all of you as we navigate with curiosity this bizarre, bunny world that is before us now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gisela, and thank you also for answering some of the questions already in the chat. I think we have a stream of 5 minutes to go to wrap up the session, but we do have a couple more minutes for one more question, I guess. And I'd like also to open this to everyone, to all of our speakers, also to Aaron and Hafiz, if you have any insights to this question. This one from Aditi. Do you want to ask your questions, Aditi, or I can ask it for you either way?
Thank you. I'm actually on the road, but it was such a great session. I really enjoyed listening to all the speakers. Thank you so much. I had a quick question. So I'm Aditi from InfraCo Asia. We develop sustainable infrastructure in emerging markets in Asia. And I wanted to check with you in your strategy as you try to, have transformative change in society for agricultural and forestry industries. At what stage do you consider infrastructure improvement or infrastructure transformation? So I understand there's social, and then there may be business models that you're looking at. At what stage does infrastructure come in? Thank you.
Thanks, Aditi. That is very interesting question, because we're talking about investments and inclusion, and we're also a great opportunity in investments are actually also infrastructure improvement and development. I would invite anyone who would want to answer that question from our speakers. Go ahead, Sanjeev.
Hi, Borja, I can take a stab. Yeah, I mean, when we look at it, oftentimes, because agriculture is oftentimes in very rural areas that are disconnected from, the grid, disconnected from major logistics channels. The need for, improved infrastructure to make the business models that we're trying to transition more efficient, make them more, like we say, sustainable and resilient to climate effects. Infrastructure, I think, increasingly is going to be a big issue. It's going to require a lot of investments itself, alongside just the improvements in just sort of reaching smallholder farmers and improving yield and farming techniques. The infrastructure also has to be there, because the goods have to get to market, and they need to be resilient against a climate that's going to be worsening before it gets better. So yeah, I mean, I would say from InfraCro's perspective, increasing that focus on the infrastructure side of how agri gets produced could drive a lot of change as well.
Thanks, Sanjeev, for that. And now and thanks, Aditi, for that question. So we have, I think, 2 more minutes left. So let's just go also. All right on time. So we're also just going to do a quick poll. If everyone can direct themselves to Menti again, just very quickly. Next slide, please. let's go to Menti for this one. And before we close, we want to know activities that you want to join or be involved in the implementation of ASEAN RAI. So you've heard from our partners and you've heard from Grow Asia and IISD and what is coming in this next year. All right, let's go to the next slide of Menti. You can select one or all of the options on which activity you're interested in joining in the next couple of in this month or in this year that Grow Asia and IISD and the rest of the ASEAN RAI implementation partners are doing this. All right. Sorry for the rush, everyone, as we only have a minute left. But before we close, I'd like to thank everyone for joining this session. And also, you can always use the chat if you have any other activities that you would want us to think about in designing programs for the private sector. All right, let's take a screenshot of Menti, close Menti. All right. And we will be sharing our slide deck as well for you this afternoon so that we will all be able to see some of the information moving forward that we are unable to share with you due to our limited time. But in the coming months, we will be publishing our case studies as well as B20 side events mid-year and learning program. So stay tuned and see you.
Recording in progress.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back once again. And what an exciting, insightful, and impactful breakout session you've all just had. Welcome back to the main ASEAN RAI main event. We will be taking a 10-minute break to give you time to get coffee, tea, or go for a bio break. Nevertheless, we encourage everyone to stay online because after the break, our experts will be sharing with us some reflections from the 3 breakout sessions earlier. We also request all participants to stay with us until the end of the program to get an exclusive opportunity to join the pilot training program on the ASEAN RAI project, which Ms. Erin Sweeney just announced during her message earlier. We hope to see you back here in the plenary session room in 10 minutes. And please remember to come back because you have the golden ticket to join the pilot program. See you back.